All right, Jared. So to set up our guest here, I'm going to show you just a few quick clips. So this one is of Nigel Farage. If you don't know who he is, he's from Britain. This is a recent little investigation he did. We're just going to show the first minute. And he's outside of he's on the street in England, probably London. And he's going to talk with us about what's happening to pub culture, to the pubs, to the restaurants, to the hospitality industry in Britain. Just a minute here. Go ahead.
So a big decision was made. The schools were to reopen, but hospitality was to pay the price. It has been a catastrophic year for pubs, wine bars, in fact, anybody involved in the hospitality trade. Now, from tomorrow, some pubs in the country are reopening, others in Tier 3, life for them is pretty much impossible. In Wales, that maniac Drakeford, who's the First Minister, has now banned alcohol in pubs, something that Cromwell didn't even manage to achieve. But what I've come to have a look at today, and this episode of Nigel Farage Investigates, I've come to Barnes, here on the River Thames. I've come to the Waterman's Arms, which is an old historic venue where not only have they suffered through lockdown.
So what happened is the local licensing bureau in England entrapped the pub, the Waterman's Arm. You can tell it's been there a long time. It's probably a local restaurant that's highly respected and often trafficked by local people. The licensing people came in there. We don't have time to go into the details, but they entrapped the owner's employee. They ordered, you have to order ahead. And so this stranger came in and said, I want to order it now. The guy said, I can't order it now. You got to go online. You got to order it. And then, it's I don't know how these rules with COVID are so insane. So the clerk, the bartender, did the right thing and said, no, I can't sell it to you because that's against the rules. Well, then this licensing guy who was hiding his identity pressed the issue and said, oh, can you do, I don't want to have to go out and use my phone and order it and stuff. Can you just do it? So he pressed him one or two more times, and this young bartender gave him the pint, and so he broke the rules. So they ended. You see, folks, this is insane because the hospitality industry is already suffering enormously. Many have already gone out of business or are going to go out of business. The next one is a barbecue in Toronto, Canada. This was last week. Jared, bring that up. And this we're going to watch a minute of this. Yeah. Just go at this is outside the barbecue. 3 days. The young entrepreneur who runs this barbecue it says he's not going to follow the local COVID rules. He's going to keep his barbecue open. Just 400 yards down the road is a Costco, packed parking lot, no social distancing, people in there and standing in line, and just Costco is super busy, but this small business is being forced to close by the mayor. We're just going to watch a minute of this. Go ahead, Jared.
Police officers behind me from going into the restaurant, and it's really a chaotic situation here. More and more people are coming here, and I guess we'll just see in the minutes ahead how this standoff is gonna play out. Are the police going to use force to get in and arrest people, or are they going to back down? Stay tuned.
What we're doing today is illegal and unlawful. I want it all on record.
Open peacefully. Will you guys stand down and allow me to open peacefully?
Health order closure.
You don't have a feeling warrant? Yes or no is satisfactory. You will not allow me to open peacefully. This is not lawful.
Public bylaws do not apply to living men and women.
Questions.
Can answer your question though.
Do not apply.
Okay, so let me ask you your question again. Your name, your rank, and your badge number.
Back up, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I've asked you multiple times.
Okay, now please, give me your justification for violating his Charter of Rights and Freedoms under the emergency order. Every emergency order must be met with justification, and that justification must be proven every 30 days. Doug Ford saying we can't know his experts and we can't see the data is not justification. So until you can provide me justification.
So the last clip I'm going to show you is this, what you're seeing here. There were hundreds of people here, and what happens next is the door gets open from the inside to the restaurant. Don't start it yet. Start it right from the beginning. Scroll that back to the beginning, that next one. So what happens is is the doors for the barbecue is open from the inside, and the people rush the cops. The cops force them to stop. Long story short, the owner gets arrested and hauled away to jail, spends a few nights in jail. This just happened last week, folks, in Canada. So mobs are I shouldn't say mobs. Groups of citizens around the world are beginning to go to the streets. They're beginning to gather together. They're becoming loud, but we haven't reached this point, which is a point that we reached in the United States of America at the time of the American Revolution. This is just 2 minutes, and when we're done with this, we're going to introduce our guest, and we're going to find out how we can move on in a positive and a constructive way without going to war. Jared, show this. This is John Adams.
And who may you be, sir?
John Hancock, ship owner.
Not John Hancock, smuggler?
What's your word, sir? I'm an honest man being strangled by monopoly.
Shame on you, sir!
We're being strangled by COVID, not monopoly. COVID. We're being strangled by COVID, not monopoly, but it's otherwise it's the same. Go ahead. And this guy here, this guy who's challenging John Hancock is the police that were at the barbecue, and it's the licensing agency in London that entrapped that pub. That's who this guy represents, who's challenging John Hancock. Go ahead, Jared.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Okay, Jared, you can stop there. That was that was John Hancock speaking to his cousin. I think it was his cousin or nephew or whatever, Sam Adams. And Sam was the one who was agitating the crowd, getting the crowd upset. We're not going to watch the whole clip because what happens next is that man who challenged John Hancock, representing the crown, representing the government, ends up being tarred and feathered. He ends up being tarred. So it's violent. John Adams objects to Sam's tactics, and which is true to history as I understand it. And but it went on. The whole situation, of course, as we know, went on to become the Revolutionary War, and that, of course, became the United States of America under the Constitution. We became a republic under the Constitution, and here we are, a little more than 200 years later, and we're going to talk to this man, Jared. The next video, we're just going to introduce the man with a video off his website, which you can check out at tacticalcivics.com or .org, not sure.
.com.
Tacticalcivics.com. And we're going to watch just a minute or two of this, and then we're going to bring David Zuniga in to talk with us and to help us understand how we can avoid tarring and feathering our government officials. So go ahead.
Zuniga, founder of Tactical Civics. For almost 30 years, I was an architectural engineer designing schools, churches, auto dealerships, and industrial plants. I also raised cattle, taught scuba, flew missionary trips into Mexico, and founded 4 classical Christian K-12 schools in 3 states. When our corrupt government took part in the 9/11 attack on America, I knew I had to do something. I spent over a year in monastic isolation in the Texas Hill Country. Praying every day, I asked God to show me how exactly America was hijacked and how we can end the hijacking. The Lord graciously answered that prayer. After reading and studying 110 books and hundreds of papers, websites, and blogs, I wrote the first draft America Again Declaration. Then a little book called This Bloodless Liberty, explaining what I had learned, who hijacked America, how they're doing it, and how we can take it back. Finally, after several years working with many others on how to do this restoration, I wrote a big action manual called Fear the People in 2015. With my nose buried in R&D with 38 other volunteers designing...
Good. So monastic, you don't hear that word very much in America. Monastic, a monastic. David Zuniga, thank you for taking time to be on here. Should I refer to you as brother or monk or?
Well, certainly, brother.
Yeah,
thank you, Mike. It's good to be with you. Yeah, we're certainly members of the same church, so brother is fine.
Amen. So David Zuniga is with us, and David, you just saw that. I set this thing up. Do you think there's any way to avoid tarring and feathering Sleepy Joe, or what do you think?
Yes, of course. That is our mission, is law enforcement. And if Jared can put up the hierarchy of our government graphic, there you go. Wow, fast. We have a government that is statutorily set. It's set in stone. Our Constitution is the highest, the supreme law of the land, and there is only one human agency over that law, and that is us collectively, we the people. So you see in the graphic here, we are at the top of this heap. Now, we may not know what we're doing, and we may not, until we came along with tactical civics, people may not have known how to do it. But if the collective sovereign can remain over the state grand juries, the state militias, and the state courts, then eventually, as we teach you how to do this county by county, you get your state grand jury briefed and back sitting again, impaneled again. You get your state militias to stand for an ordinance at your county level. The county passes the ordinance. Now you have actual constitutional militia. Now you have a briefed grand jury sitting, and those change out over time. People drop off the grand jury and people get on new grand juries. New ones are impaneled, whatever. We teach you how to do each of those things. If you don't know in your county the first thing about grand jury or why it's important, we show you. We show you why it's important to serve, how you can get on the roster in your county courthouse so that the next time a grand jury is impaneled, you'll be on it. That kind of thing. And then we take all these militia groups and give them some direction. We show them, look, guys, you're doing a great job at what you're doing, but guess what? You're playing soldier, and right now it's a law enforcement problem that we have. So the courts of the states have to do this, not federal courts, state courts. So in the counties of the states, we, the people, have to learn, A, how government works, B, the fact that we're at the top of it, and C, okay, what does that mean for me? So each person has to say, okay, what are my chores? What am I missing here? How do I start? So that's what we teach you at Tactical Civics. First, we show you the basics. We've got lots of books and videos and all of that. But first, you just have to learn how to start you can call it a club. We call it a chapter. So you have a county chapter, and we say, all right, you're the founder of that chapter. You may not run it. Somebody else younger or more energetic or whatever may come along to run it, but you're the founder. You're the one planting the seed. So right now we have 251 of those chapters, county chapters all over the country, from Alaska to Florida and everywhere in between, from Southern California to Maine. We've got all these. We need to have all 3,141 counties and county equivalents represented. And so far we're only at 250. So we've got a long way to go.
David, now I love this chart, but I got to tell you that I think that the average person, you can't even call people in America citizens anymore, because the average person in America is going to look at this chart and be totally confused because it's completely upside down. I mean, it's obvious to everybody. It's obvious to everybody, David, that we, the people, are at the bottom, and the state bureaucracy, the federal bureaucracy, and the federal courts are at the top. I mean, just look at, we're expecting the Supreme Court to decide who the president's going to be right now.
That's right. Right? That's right. So, well, let me back into that, Mike. Let's talk about this current problem we have, which is, it's a problem of stupidity, but it's a problem. It's very real. So we have lots and lots of Americans, hundreds of millions of Americans, who don't know how the Constitution stipulates the election of our presidents through the Electoral College. People who are electors in the states right now, they don't know civics. So they are chosen to be an elector, to cast a ballot, but they really don't know how this is all supposed to work or why it's supposed to be a state issue. Not the people, but the states, the state legislatures. The founding fathers made this so that the state legislatures essentially elect our president. Most people don't know what the Electoral College is, how it works. Well, we show you all of that. We teach you. We teach you civics. So you go, okay, so right now we shouldn't be having this war with Biden. Number one, there's just a matter of felony crimes that have been committed, thousands of them. All right. Where do you go after that? You go after that in the court in the particular county in which the crime was committed. So if there's an election board and that election board is a bunch of Biden people who are completely compromised, they're complete, peons for say communists, whatever you want to call it. How do you stop them? How do you go after them? Well, if you don't have a sitting grand jury to look at it, look into it, and pass up true bills of indictment, nothing's going to happen. And if you don't have a militia to serve, let's say, a subpoena or serve a search warrant or serve an arrest warrant and bring the person in for the grand jury to start questioning, then you don't have law in your county. You're waiting for somebody on high, like you said, Mike. You're waiting for somebody way higher up to come fix it. So everybody says, well, DOJ, where's Barr? Where's the Attorney General? Wait, stop. Right. Do you even know what where the DOJ started? The DOJ is an illegal, unconstitutional, nowhere stipulated in the Constitution agency that was born out of a part-time job for one lawyer. And we have a whole podcast where we do the history of where the DOJ started and how and all that. And it's a fascinating story. It's amazing. Like so many agencies and bureaus, it created itself. That's what. Yeah. So you go back and look and you say, so this is a clown show. It's a clown show. Nobody knows how the law works. So everybody's kind of waiting for somebody else to act. We show you how to break this down by county and get to work.
But what an elegant design you've described here in the graphic that I'm still looking at. I don't know if Jared still has it up, but
yes,
what an elegant idea that we the people would be empowered so, and that their action as citizens would be mediated through these ideas, through the state grand jury, the state militias, the state courts, and that the opportunity to resolve disputes, so much of the power would be designed to exist that close to where people live. We're so
it always comes back. It always comes back to the people. Yes. Here, if you go back and you say, all right, I want to know the provenance of it. Where did this come from? Where did grand jury come from? Well, we did that. And we kept going back and back and back and back. And we thought, oh, Runnymede, it's going to be Magna Carta. No, it was a couple of centuries before that. We found in the reign of King Ethelred of England in 940 something AD, we found in his dooms, the dooms of King Ethelred, we found here's the first mention of a grand jury 1,000 years ago. Okay, same thing with militia. It came back to Ethelred, that same king. So we have 1,000-year-old rule of law. Of the common law system is really, really old. It doesn't just go to our founding fathers. Our founding fathers knew ancient classical history. They knew European history, and they said, we want to make sure and fix this and this and this. So they went back. They went all the way back. The grand jury pre-existed our Constitution. Notice, you won't see the grand jury founded or stipulated by us in the Constitution. It is only acknowledged as already existing when we wrote the Constitution. Same thing with the militia. Go look. It is not stipulated or founded in the Constitution. It is acknowledged as already existing. So the two fundamental organic law enforcement institutions of America are the grand jury and the militia. And they existed long before our country, long before our colonial period, 800 years so before. So it's very old and it's very tried and tested. When stuff gets really Western, really ugly, and people get really mad, like you showed it when you were setting up this video, you know, things get crazy and the mob gets riled up. How do you solve that? You have to give it back to the people. If the people feel like they are being cheated and lied to and defrauded and stolen from and enslaved, they're eventually going to rise up. Well, that's what you see all over the world right now.
And speaking of the people, we have an audience, and one of our audience members has decided to come in. We just started doing the studio audience option with WCN-TV live stream each week. And Jeff, I want to acknowledge your presence. Thanks for coming in. I don't know if you have a question or point you want to make at this point, but it looks like you're unmuted. Jeff, welcome.
Well, thanks a lot. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Jeff.
I don't see I don't see myself as a participant on the screen, so I can't tell. I guess I'm still getting used to the software.
Technology. I see you. I see those lovely pictures on the wall behind you. Yes. So
thank you very much. I'm fascinated by this discussion of the grand jury and how to participate in the grand jury, you know, because I live in New York City, which is an epicenter of left-wing thought. And I've never been called for a grand jury, just for a regular jury. So I'm just fascinated to hear all this, because it's never discussed in the schools. I was a high school teacher for 21 years, and we don't teach any of this to the students. And it's an eye-opener. Probably this is a whole dimension of experience. We need to get back to the people as being the source of authority in this country, and we've lost the way.
So, David, you know, Jeff's from New York City. I mean, is there any hope for him at all?
You know, Jeff, maybe not in the city, but we have members. You know, when you zoom into the precinct level, not the county, but the precinct level map of New York, of the whole state, you see red. You see red everywhere. And you go, wait a minute, is this New York that I hear about? I'm from Texas, so is this the New York that we hear about? It doesn't look right. Look how red it is. Everybody voted Trump except the big cities. You look from, say, Westchester County south through the neck into the big city and about 20 miles out into Long Island. Yeah, it's blue. But all the rest out into the Hamptons is red. And then you look at the entire state, the mass of New York, and except for the big cities, it's all red.
Right.
And what I tell New Yorkers is the same thing I tell the people in California or New Jersey. Certain states, when you look at them, you say, oh, we're lost, we can never win. No, because of what I'm going to talk about next. There is a very little known, this is another one of those things, Jeff, that we're not taught in school. Right. The original first right in the Bill of Rights, there were 12 articles in that bill. There were not 10, there were 12. The original first right in the Bill of Rights was an article to limit the size of U.S. House districts to 50,000 people. Originally 30,000, then it had a stepwise stepping up to 50,000. And that is now before the states for action. And it has been open under Article 5 before the states for 231 years. Now, the first 11, actually 12, but Connecticut dropped the ball, states ratified it back in 1789 through 90. Actually, through 91. I'm sorry, there were 2 states in 91 that did. So by 1791, there were 11 out of 15 states who had said yes. We needed 12. Connecticut went ahead and said yes, but then they lost their paperwork, didn't send it in. But that, if we had that first right in the Bill of Rights today, you would go to New York State, and let me see what it is. I don't have it offhand right now, but I'll pull it up in a minute. You would have 15 times the current. Okay, so New York right now has 27 seats in the House. What you ought to have is 396 seats. Okay. Right. Now imagine New York now split up into 396 U.S. congressional districts. Jeff, they would be tiny. They would be small. You could almost walk across some of them. In fact, the urban ones, you could walk across them. So what would happen is then, now look at New York State. See how red it is? Well, lots of those seats would be conservative. Lots of them. Now, I know, you know, the city basically would get a whole lot more, and you know, Albany would get more, and the blue splotches would get more, but all of the red part of America that now gets nothing in the U.S. House, that gets nothing in the U.S. Electoral College, would now have a vote. So when you look at the overall map of the United States and you say there's 31,400 towns of under 10,000 people, 31,000 communities who have zero voice. Whenever you vote, those 31,000 communities have no voice in the U.S. House ever. They have no voice in the U.S. Electoral College ever. 31,000 disenfranchised American.
Where would they convene? All those representatives.
Well, now that's the next thing. You need to watch our little 21-minute video at tacticalcivics.com. They would convene.
And I have to jump in here, David and Jeff, because it's the bottom of the hour and we got to pay the bills. So, Jared, you got commercials to play. So, on when we come back, David's going to answer Jeff's question about where in the world would you seat 38 million politicians who are elected to go to Washington.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and play the ads.
At the McClario firm, it starts with family. We are here to serve you and your family, online or in person. Call today for a free consultation. The McClario firm, your law firm for life.
Are you a parent, mentor, or youth leader searching for meaningful books to engage your middle and high schoolers? Look no further. The books in the Off the Itinerary series by author M. Liz Boyle are receiving outstanding reviews for their compelling plots and strong Christian themes. Avalanche, Chaste, and soon-to-be-released Ablaze are available on Amazon and at most bookstores. Check out mlizboyle.com for discussion guides to accompany each book.
Pornography is a destructive force. It destroys individuals, families, and fuels the out-of-control demand for sex trafficking. 45% of Christian families say porn is a problem in their home, but why aren't churches and public schools talking about this? Fear. People who view porn think they're the only one. It's a lie. Statistically, more people view porn than who do not and struggle in silence. www.linfrederick.com. You can find the book I wrote about my own battle with porn and the presentations that I do for churches and public schools. linfrederick.com.
And we're back. We're talking with David Zuniga, who has tacticalcivics.com. Tacticalcivics.com. You want to check out that website. You want to plug in if you want to save America. And all of us want to now. You know, I was in Washington, D.C. for the first Million MAGA March, and I'm going back with my wife on the 12th of December. You need to go to that. If you can get there at all, you need to go to Washington, D.C., because I've been in politics for almost 40 years. I've never been with a group that was so eager to demonstrate the virtue of patriotism. Not politicism, not civics, but patriotism. That group that gathered there, they loved their country. They were. I've never seen so many flags, colorful flags. I never felt threatened once. You know, the big news in the press was Antifa. Well, they came out at night, and the Proud Boys chased them away, and that wasn't much of an issue. But so it just made my heart feel good to be so close to so many Americans who feel patriotic about their nation. We're talking with David Zuniga. He's a patriot, and we've got Jeff on as our studio audience. You can be part of the studio audience too. We kind of messed up with the link this week. We'll get it fixed next week. But Jared, he may want to throw that link up again. We got another 20 minutes or so to go, and you can come in and ask a question or make a comment if you want, live on WCN-TV live stream. Right now, David Zuniga, you were going to answer. You were going to tell us where we're going to sit 6,400 people to fix the problem in this country. Go ahead.
That's right. So once we break the U.S. House down the way the founding fathers expected it to be, which is small, relatively powerless districts, so that what George Washington said at the convention, it was the last day of the convention. Washington had not stood up to speak in plenary session in all 4 months. They began in May. This was September 25th, last day of the convention. And Nathaniel Gorham had been bugging him that Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 was calling for 40,000 people per district. It was too large. It was too large. It would be too powerful. So George Washington stood up the last hour, the last day, and he said, this is the exceptionable part of this. We should change this. It's too large. And so they did. Had universal consent. They brought it before the group, and they agreed to drop Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4 to 30,000. So our districts, House districts right now should be 30,000 people. Mm-hmm. But Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, 2 years later, when they put up the Bill of Rights, Article 1 said, well, okay, up to 50,000. Do you know what the average district is, House district is today? 750,000. There are some that are over 1 million people. Now, that's just wrong. That's way too powerful. So,
and the reason that's wrong, David, one of the things I loved about Maine is in our state house, if you go into the House of Representatives, it's brown and green. If you go into the Senate, it's blue, like the color of the sky. And there was a reason for that. There's a reason for that. And that's the way it was done originally. The Senate is smaller and it's the higher body. And the House of Representatives is the lower body. And there's 151 representatives in Maine, and there's 35 senators. And the lower body is supposed to have small districts. It was by design. And that was so that those representatives, we are not a democracy. We're a republic. We're a representative democracy, and we use democracy as a mechanism to resolve issues. But we're not a pure democracy. We're a constitutional republic. So, but the House of Representatives, to make your point, to illustrate your point, the House of Representatives is supposed to be closer to the earth. It's supposed to be earthy, closer to the sovereign, closer to the person. Right, David?
Well, yes, and again, there's a sort of there are two aspects to the way we are structured as a government. One is that the people are at the very top. We are the sovereign. Collectively, we're the highest level. So whenever people use the word, grassroots, I despise that word because it makes us feel like earthworms underfoot. You know, being down in the grassroots. We're at the highest level of the tree. We're the top leaves on the top of the tree. There's nothing higher than we the people. We're the highest pay grade, or whatever you want to call it, the highest power. So we're the only power over the Constitution. If you take anything away from this, folks, remember, we the people collectively, not individually, are the only power over the Constitution. Everyone else who works for government at any level is under the Constitution. Okay, let me get to your question. Everyone's heard of telepresence by now. They've heard of, it's what we're doing right now, correct? So right now I can get, let's say Blue Jeans Media or any one of the telepresence companies, and they even have a free level of service, but for about, I don't know, $5,000 a month, I could have a national network where I could meet 10,000 people could meet at once every day. As long as only one person is speaking, that one person comes up on the camera, and that's the person who's at the mic, whatever. So Congress can meet anywhere. They don't have to be in DC. For committee, especially committee and subcommittee meetings, all of these things, you know how we learned that they can do it? This coronavirus nonsense. They've had to work from home for a long time. All this year we've learned, aha, Congress doesn't really have to be in DC, do they? Look what they're doing. They're working from home. So we learned this year, was one of the many things God did with this corona nonsense. We learned that telepresence is, its time has come. We need to have, Americans need to have the first distributed legislature in the history of the world from now on. So here's how we're going to pitch it to, I'm going to jump ahead here because we're running short on time. I'm writing a little book right now called Dear Mr. Trump. And it's
graphic
hopefully coming out by Christmas. It's there are many books we're writing. There you go. Dear Mr. Trump, the subtitle is Productive America's Challenge to Our Beloved White House Servant. Here's how I'm pitching this to Trump. We need to go to 3,141 chapters, and we need those chapters to start fleshing out with lots of people in them so we can do all of the things we want to do. Number one, we want to push through the original first right in the Bill of Rights, get 27 more states to vote yes. Boom, we now have small districts. Every state has to do a new redistricting. And instead of, like I was saying earlier, instead of New York having whatever it is, what did we have? New York now had 27 seats in the House. You're going to have 396. So you're going to have to redraw the redistrict New York. California right now is 53, and it's got to have 783. So when you look at California and you see all the disenfranchised Californians that are so upset right now, they will all get a voice now. So we do that overnight if Trump gets involved. And here's why I want Trump to lose this election. Don't get mad at me, folks.
Wait a second now.
Here's why I want him to look. Here's why I want Biden to win, to cheat and win, and everybody get angry, because there are 10 million people across America, at least 10 million, who will do something, who will get up for Trump, wave flags, drive around, do things, go to meetings, all that. Okay, those 10 million people have to start actually taking responsibility here. We have the action plan. We want to show Mr. Trump, we want to say, look, buddy, you're a great guy and we love you. And you're a rock star and you can turn them out in huge droves. But we want to show you how when you leave the White House 5 years from now, because let's say we give it up, let Biden take it. We want to show you what you can do when you're just a citizen. You can't do this as president. But you know what you can do if you're not in the White House? You can now have something to do with the original first right in the Bill of Rights. You can break up Congress and make it little. And then the first day you're back in January 2025, you can sign the Bring Congress Home Act. We'll show you, we have the act written, that all those 6,400 House members get to Congress on January 3rd of 2025, and they say, we're here, but we ran on the fact that we want to go home. We want to serve from home. So we have this Bring Congress Home Act, and we want you to sign it, Mr. President. You sign it, you send Congress home forever. Donald Trump goes down in history as the greatest president who got rid of Congress in DC forever. Okay, so that's how we're pitching.
That'd be awesome.
He won't be able to do that if he stays in the White House. He'll have way too much to do. He's going to have heads rolling from DOJ to FBI to the Biden 5 to, he's going to go after all kinds of things and probably try to run something, in the House that, we need to impeach Biden because he's a high international criminal and blah, blah, blah. He's going to have so much going. Forget it. If he gets to be president, if he stays president, he's not going to I think he won't look at us. But if he's out for 4 years, we can show him this and say, look, we keep all of your troops fresh because we're going to give them tons to do. We've got a lot to do right now, every month. We keep your Trump train running for the next 4 years. And then we get you back in office and you kick it over the field goal. You kick the final field goal. And then you're going to be in for 4 more years. You'll be an old guy, but guess what? You'll still be younger than Joe Biden is today. So you're starting your last 4 years. Now we let you redevelop Capitol Hill into the most beautiful multi-use hotel, restaurant, office building. It would be the most beautiful hotel. Think about it. If people who know,
I just walked by Trump Hotel 2 weeks ago. It's
the one down the street. Okay, so imagine a much nicer one. Now it probably won't be Trump because he'll be president and he can't do his own deal. But he's very good at this. He knows how to do a redevelopment project, and so his whole 4 years he's going to have time to push that and say, I already got him out of this city. Now let's do something with this building and make everybody proud. Anyway, it's so Trumpian, Mike. It's so Trumpian. I can see it happening.
And also, Dave, I mean, we have entered in 2020 a period in human history, not just American history, but human history that I didn't see coming. And I don't think there's many. I mean, outside of the Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum and Bill Gates's little universe that he hangs with there, the Billionaires Club, I don't think anybody saw 2020 coming except for that crowd, and they're the ones who planned.
The Davos group did plan it. Yeah, they have, and they're planning on the reset, the Great Reset. Now, see, that's the other thing. If Trump does win, if he stays in, I think they're doing the Great Reset this coming year. I think they're going to shut down power. They're going to shut power down. They're going to shut the grid down for days and make everything collapse, and I mean really deep collapse.
Well, and the FBI has been to my house. I mean, I know that if Trump loses, I'm going to be first going to a re-education camp because just go and Google my name and take a look at what I write and what I say as late as today. I mean, the FBI's already been to my house. They know where.
I assure you, Mike, they won't, and because you will have our people surrounding you, and again, when the people start learning how this works, okay, so we have to get, I need to serve on a grand jury. I don't know how to do that. Well, we give you a little booklet. It's called, our program is called Grand Jury Awake, and we show you how do you get to serve on a grand jury? How can you put yourself on a list? Well, go to your county courthouse, tell the county clerk that you want to serve on the next impaneled, the next time there's going to be a grand jury impaneled, you're willing and able to serve. They always put you at the top of the list. If somebody signs up and says, I want to serve on grand jury, you're on their list at the courthouse. So when they need somebody.
Wait a second, David. Now, we all know because of systemic racism that everything we've been talking about now is only for white people, right? Because it comes from Europe.
Oh, no. It's for anybody, any American.
I got that wrong?
You have that wrong. Your tongue-in-cheek is wrong. Yeah, it's for all Americans. Doesn't matter your socioeconomic status. If you want to serve, you should serve on your grand jury. Same thing with militia. People think militia is a bunch of overweight guys in camo running around in the woods and firing AR-15s. No, what militia is supposed to be is if you have, let's say, a bent district attorney or a bent sheriff, or worst of all, a bent judge who is working, let's say, with a crack house in town, or with a fentanyl or whatever you call it, dealer, and they're making good money and they're bent, and you can't get around it because they're the top of the legal heap. How do you how do you stop that? If it's the sheriff that's the bad guy, well, guess what? The grand jury can stop it, but the grand jury has no guns, and you can't, as a grand juror, you can't walk out of that room and say, "Hey, I'm serving on grand jury." You'll end up dead that night. You don't want to do that. Grand jury is always supposed to remain secret. Okay, so what is the armed force behind the grand jury? The militia. That's why we had to go all the way back to the dooms of King Ethelred and find 1,000 years ago. Okay, so when things are really bad, the people have the arms, the people have the grand jury, and together the people make this right again. And so we show you how in your county, if you already have a militia group, fantastic. We show you how to get an ordinance passed at your county level, because people say, well, militia has to be state level. No, it doesn't. If the state has abdicated their duty and in fact is trying to disarm the people, then the state, according to our Declaration of Independence, has given up its right, and it devolves back upon the people themselves. So you go to the next, under the rule or the principle of subsidiarity, you go to the next lowest thing, that's the county government. You come to the county government, we have the model ordinance for you. We even have a speech that you can deliver if you want to do this in your county. We have everything you need to set up. We give you everything. We show you how it's done.
I'm so glad that you're talking about militia so much, David. I want to. Will you come back on the show when I'm hosting it again sometime after the new year?
Sure.
Can I get you back on? I want to just have you on to talk only about militia. The reason is because I have 3 sons, and one of the things I would have loved when I was raising my boys was a local militia into which I could have plugged myself. Why? Because as I've matured and as I've thought about firearms, I haven't really been all that interested in hunting, but I have been interested in participating, especially with my sons, in learning how to use firearms responsibly in order to protect virtue, in order to use force in a justified way that's submitted to lawful authority. And of course, that it's so sad what's been done by the propagandists to the word militia, right?
Well, let me quickly tell you what the law says, Mike. What does the highest law say? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 of the U.S. Constitution says militia is to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Remember the invasions on our border? Remember the insurrections on our streets with the fire bombings and all that? Do you know that that's militia's job? Do you find the word sheriff in the Constitution? No. Do you find the word police in the Constitution? No. You find only the militia. So the guy that you really need to have on next is my co-founder, John Lazorick of West Virginia. He is an erudite man, an amazing man. He runs our American Militia 2.0 project. And it's
I want to have him on. If you think of it, if you can put me in touch with him, I do want to have him on.
Sure. And we can either both be on, but if you want to just talk about militia, that's John. That's not me. John is, he is the, right now in America, he's the #1 mind on revamping, restoring the constitutional militia. He gives speeches, he does presentations. He's quite a guy. He's an amazing guy. So he's our guy for American Militia 2.0.
We've got just 5 minutes because for the final 2 minutes, I want to play a humorous little clip for us so we can go out with a chuckle. But so David, I opened the show by showing that clip of John Hancock being confronted by the British official, and then I stopped the clip before he was tarred and feathered. But I feel like we've already seen violence from the left all year in the cities. We haven't yet seen a reaction from the right, but that's what we were looking at in that clip. Do you think that we're going to emerge in 2021 into a political situation that's going to result in tarring and feathering, or in that
I hope not. I hope that actually what we're going to have is chapters popping up all over the place and saying, here we are law enforcement. We have the back of our paid law enforcement people. We are on the side of the Constitution. Here's what you can do in your county. We're trying to show people this is the best. I know this is hard to believe, folks. We'll show you, though. We'll prove it to you if you join us. Go to tacticalcivics.com. We have a 5-point quick start right on our front page. Go through that. It'll take you about 90 minutes. You will be so happy at the end of that 90 minutes. I promise you. Go there. A little further. There it is, right there. I'm sorry, 4 parts. So you do those 4 points right there, right there. Those 4 points, in about 90 minutes, you are going to say, wow, wow, wow. So this is like the best time in American history. Yeah, it is. I know it doesn't look like it, but we needed, when God judges a people, notice, Old Testament or New, when God is judging you, Do you feel real good, or do you feel real bad? When you're under God's judgment, it's just like if you're a little kid and daddy is you're right in the middle of discipline. Do you love it? Is it fun? No, it's not, right? So we're in Romans 1, verses 19 through 32. The second part where Paul is talking, and he's speaking to the people in the church at Rome, but he's really speaking about both the Greeks and Romans back then. When things get really ugly and everybody's sinning all over the place, you know what that is? People first said, "Oh, I know about God, but I don't want to glorify him as God. I want to do my own thing. I want to turn into a beast. I want to do funny things with other men. So that's what's happening there. That's where we are. The truth is here now, and we bring it to you in the name of Jesus Christ, which is number one. Remember, that's what this republic was founded on. And we bring it in the name of the founding fathers. We do everything lawfully, peacefully, properly. That's what we think is coming next year. I know it's hard to believe right now, but if you, person who's listening to my voice, go to tacticalcivics.com, sign up, start reading. We give you everything you need. Every step of the way we'll have what you need before you need it. We can take this country back.
TacticalCivics.com. We're talking with David Zuniga from Texas, and he is there to help you. He's done all the work, and you just need to plug in and use your reason to understand what he and his team is teaching, and then you need to go and do it. And we can save our nation. We can preserve our nation. We can be paid. We can exercise the virtue of patriotism beyond waving a flag and showing up at a rally and expecting Donald Trump to stop all of the evil. In fact, if we continue to do that, if we continue to expect the federal level to fix this, it ain't going to be fixed. Each of us are going to have to step up and take responsibility for ourselves and for our communities, for our neighborhoods, for our nation. And David Zuniga's tacticalcivics.com gives you all the tools you need to get started in thinking about that and in building on it with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family members. So don't wait to get started. Go today to tacticalcivics.com. And in the final minute and a half, Jared, I want you to show that video, mask video for fun. David, I just can't hate these I call them face diapers enough. So we're gonna close with this short little funny video. And with thanks to David Zuniga for being on WCN-TV live stream this week. We'll be back next week with another really great guest. And remember, this week, don't wear the diaper unless you absolutely have to. Go ahead.
My apologies. I was wearing my mask because I just got back from a full day of being a good person. I love my mask because it's a simple yet effective way to display my righteousness. Am I concerned that 2 children in China dropped dead because they were forced to wear masks in gym class? Nope. Am I concerned that we're creating a generation of children who will be socially awkward and conditioned to fear their fellow man? No. Am I concerned that I'm contributing to an impending socialist technocracy that will enslave the global population? Not even a little bit. Am I concerned that my mask is symbolic of my compliance to the social conditioning that will eventually lead to the forced vaccination of every man, woman, and child on planet Earth? Not a chance. And why am I not concerned, you ask? I'm not concerned because I decided a long time ago that shallow, insignificant gestures are a much easier way to showcase my morality than actually being moral. Because in order to be a real good person, I gotta stand up to a real bad person. And I don't like standing up to or for anything. I've decided that it's much easier to trick my own mind into thinking compliance is a virtue instead of what compliance actually is: cowardice. I prefer to float through life completely ignorant to the fact that every socialist takeover has always begun in the exact same way, with government overreach, public shaming, censorship, and a toilet paper shortage. Don't believe me? Google toilet paper shortage in communist Russia. Did you think you were having a unique experience? I prefer to pretend history never repeats itself so that I can stand by and turn a blind eye every time history repeats itself. I prefer to call anyone who speaks up, fights back, or stands their ground a lunatic or a conspiracy theorist so that I don't feel obligated to do my own research. Research takes away from me time. And lastly, I prefer to put on my mask and stand among a sea of masks so that I never have to be seen, be free, or reveal the deep dark shadows that lurk within me.